Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Call It podcast. Hey, Jen.
What up, girl? How's it going?
Oh, it's going. It's Tuesday today.
Whoa.
/ Friday.
Weird.
Freaky Friday.
Whoa.
Did you see that they're coming out with a second Freaky Friday?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're calling it Freakier Friday. But it's Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, like the OGs. So
I love that.
And Chad Michael Murray.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I used to love that movie when I was a kid. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I feel like that one and Cinderella Story were like the best.
Uh-huh.
I think I just love Chad Michael Murray.
Yeah, that fair enough.
Who was your like teen celebrity crush when you were younger?
Josh Hutcherson. Because when I was a teenager, that's when The Hunger Games was out.
Okay.
He was my, I had it wasn't a BlackBerry, but it was kind of like that.
Okay.
It was a phone with literal buttons and a teeny tiny screen, and he was my screensaver.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like forever frozen as Josh Hutcherson from like the 2010s.
Yes.
Honestly.
I agree, and I love it.
Me
He's
too.
such an icon.
I'm trying to think of mine. Obviously the Jonas Brothers, but I think something in the similar is I did love Robert Pattinson because of Twilight.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like I really wanted him, the scene where he goes to Bella in the middle of the night. And when you think about it in a real world perspective, that's really creepy. I wanted that to happen to me. Or I think that I would have dreams about him if I were to open my eye a little bit. He'd be sitting there in the corner of my room. And I thought I would like it, but I don't think I would have.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
Follow-up question before we get started. Which Jonas brother was your favorite? Because I love the Jonas Brothers.
Okay, I loved Joe Jonas.
Okay.
Because, here's the thing. I was always trying to be different, right? I was just not any other girl. So I obviously couldn't pick Nick because that's who everybody was obsessed with. No offense to Kevin. He's just normally not anyone's first pick. And especially back then, he was just so talks like this and just was kind of I don't know, whiny and I don't know.
Speak your truth.
But I love Kevin. I respect his placement in the band. I think
I'm a Kevin girl.
Are you really?
We had an interaction when I went to their concert in November. I think it was November. Yeah, my mom and sister and I saw them in Milwaukee in November or December, one of the two of this past year.
Okay.
And so stage, and then on both sides of the stage there were little tiny places where you could seat, not a ton of people, but it was the stage was 2 levels and it was on the side of the stage.
Yeah.
We're sitting on that side of the stage, pretty close. We're probably only 4 rows from the stage. We're pretty damn close. There was a moment where Kevin Jonas came to that part of the stage and I pointed and I talking to my sister. I'm like, that's fucking Kevin. And he pointed back at me.
And he's like, that's fucking Jen.
Fucking Jen.
That's Jen.
We're best friends.
Oh, that's awesome. I actually feel like you and his wife or kids would get along really well.
Oh,
maybe you could nanny?
Hey, Kevin Jonas, if you're hiring.
Yeah, hire Jen Kettner /nanny /graphic designer for tour.
Yeah. You know where to find me.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Oh, I love that. I actually was just, not to keep going on this, but I did reminisce when I was in Grand Marais after my birthday, we walked into this bookstore and there was a writer there and she was kind of doing her meet and greet for her book and it was about teenage crushes. It was just really cool and she had these little chocolates. I wish I could remember her name, but she had these little chocolates and she printed off different childhood crushes and wrapped them around the little Hershey's. It was so cute. So she was handing that out and she asked me who my crush was. So I found Jonas Brothers.
Yeah.
And I was like, either them or Jesse McCartney probably as well. Yeah. And then she was like, oh, really? How did you ever hear about them? I was like, well, probably a lot of Disney Channel, but I used to get the K-pop or what are they called? The teenage magazines.
It's something...
Teen Pop or
there's something with numbers, wasn't it K-12 or
yeah, something 14,
J14.
Yes. I'm glad we could piece that together.
Yes.
But the J14 magazines were in the center of it. You had 2 back-to-back posters of different people. So it was kind of like whatever guys were in there. So it would be like Mario, Omarion, like Jesse McCartney.
Yeah.
It kind of didn't matter. I could not know who they were, but I was just like, that's going on my wall. And I used the blue poster putty. Do you remember that?
Yes.
It used to stain the walls, the paint. Parents
That's
hated
so
it.
funny.
Yeah. So trip down memory lane.
I love it.
Oh, which is a good segue into this week's topic.
Ooh.
What are we talking about today, Jen?
We are going to talk about reflection. Ooh, we're going to go into the past a little bit. We're going to do some thinking and thanking.
Oh my God. I haven't
Excited.
stank in a thunking long time.
Retweet, sister. Amen. And we're also going to do some looking into the future as well.
Yes. So please stay till the very end to figure out what the Call It Gals are up to. Okay.
Listen to my podcast.
Listen to our podcast.
Anywho,
Do you want to hit us with a disclaimer?
I would love to. I would love nothing more. Here's my juicy, loosey, oosey, goosey disclaimer of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Alex and I are 2 girls. We have 2 opinions. We're going to be talking about them today, even though I feel like today is probably going to be a lot of like personal experience type deal.
Yeah.
But even so, we're going to be dishing the scoop on our lives. We're going to be speaking from the heart.
You know what's weird is that even if it's coming from personal experience, the reason why we disclaim pretty much everything is because in today's social climate, everybody gets offended by personal experience.
It's very true.
So thank you for saying that.
I got you. But anywho, if our opinions differ, that's cool. That's totally normal. No need to freak out, brother.
Yeah, do not fret. Don't.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the first question?
I'm so ready. Oh, also,
Yes.
this is like the episode we did a couple weeks ago where we both prepared questions, or like we did the pop culture thing a couple
Yes.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now we've prepared questions for each other and we don't know what we're going to ask.
We don't know, which I think will be fun because it also will prompt us to be a little bit more,
Loosey goosey, oosey juicy.
yeah, but like a little bit more authentic with our answers, I
Oh,
guess,
sure.
because we didn't already pre-write like dialogue to go afterwards.
Sure.
So I think it'll be cool.
I'm excited.
But my first question for you, Jen, is when you think about how you reflect, is it normally positive or negative reflecting? Do you dwell on the not so fond memories or do you tend to relive the happy ones?
That's a good question. Personally, I feel in general that I look at things on a positive note. There's not a lot of things that I regret doing in life, probably slim to none. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. So when I go back and reflect and look at things that I've either done or gone through or whatever I'm thinking back on, it's generally in a positive note. I feel like the experiences and everything that we've gone through shape us, and they definitely made me specifically who I am today. So when I go back and look on things, I'm not like a, ooh, I should have done it this way type of person, because if I did it that way, I might not be who I am today, or I might not think some of the things that I think are important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
What were the other questions in there?
Do you dwell on the not so fond memories or do you relive the happy ones?
I definitely like reliving the happy ones for sure.
Yeah.
Especially like, okay, this is just an example that's right on the top of my head, but this week I was with Henry for like 5 days, and this morning before he left, we were just like laying in bed talking, and we're like, it was so fun when we went duck pin bowling this week. Like, we should do that again sometime. And
yeah.
even just on like silly little things like that, I love reliving the happy memories.
Yeah.
I think I definitely do dwell on some negative past situations as well, but it's hard not to.
I was just going to say, I think that's really normal.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of reflection is like, okay, how could I have done this better? Maybe not so much like rewriting the past, but
Right.
being like, what can I learn from this? Or like, what did I take away from it? That type of reflection, which I feel like is inherently labeled negative. But
Yeah.
I mean, you have to. It's just, you can't only focus on the positives. You need the yin and the yang of the two.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree. And even if you don't want to be thinking about the negatives, it's always going to be there. right? I think about all the shit I went through in the last year, and even though I'm not thinking about things like that constantly, sometimes events or certain things happen in the present that make you think about that or kind of relate back to that. So obviously you're naturally going to start thinking about that again. But I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's totally normal.
It's completely human. You kind of have to. And I feel like if you're not thinking about that, then hopefully it's not because you're trying to avoid it. I feel like taking things head on, whether the good or the bad are there, I think that's the best. And it's just part of, like the human experience is reflecting on it all.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you ready for my question?
I guess. I don't know. I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous.
Okay.
I think we might have taken a slightly different approach, but I kind of like that.
Okay.
One of the topics that we discussed pretty early on in our time on this podcast, one of our first episodes, was about education, specifically higher education like universities we both have gone to. Overall, I feel like personally, at least in our podcast conversations, but also our personal friend conversations, because we're friends, most of your experiences seem pretty positive, and the way you talk about school is pretty positive. Especially going for your degree, the experiences you had in school, things like that. But looking back on those days, is there anything that you feel you would change if you could go back in time? Which is kind of funny because your first question was really similar to this. Like, how do you look at situations like that? Are there things that you would go back and change? Or are you pretty content with what you did?
Almost exactly like you said. I would never go back and necessarily rewrite what I've already done, decisions I've made, because like you said, then we wouldn't be experiencing all these wonderful things today. We wouldn't have the podcast, there would be a lot of things that I feel like I would have missed out on, and who knows if I would have been happier. I mean, sometimes I feel like the decisions that I made, either like with my education or jobs at the time or relationships when I was in school, I really struggled through a lot of things. I dealt with a lot of anxiety and depression during the end, but as painful as it was, if I could have been able to see into the future, which I also don't ever want to know, I think it would be cool, but I wouldn't want to know. But if I were to have looked into the future, even like 5 or 6 years down the road, which is really not that long, to see my life completely shift and I just learn from those experiences, that's a really cool part, because it feels so real and heavy in the time when you're going through a bad time or wondering if you made the right decision. But to kind of like stick to your guns and ride it out, a lot of what I experienced was uncertainty and indecisiveness, not knowing what the heck I wanted to do. And I think that I really beat myself up. I've probably talked about this because I had a lot of other friends who knew what they wanted to do. They never wavered. They never saw themselves doing anything else, and they graduated early, if not at least on time. Yeah. So I felt like I was kind of set back, and with that scenario specifically, I now realize that all the different avenues and different things that I took is just like more tools in my tool belt that other people will not have, which isn't bad, but I've had so much more experience than the average person my age because of my indecisiveness. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's exactly how I wanted you to answer it, because I didn't want you to be like, oh, if I could have gone back, I would have went for XYZ, I think you answered that perfectly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be a deeper question if I were to have answered it the opposite way. Yeah. To be like, well, why do I feel like what do I feel like I'm missing out on?
Right.
Why do I feel like I also, not to like keep going on this, but I think a lot of where that comes from is just like complete happiness and contentness with where I'm at and my view on success. And I'll say that in air quotes because I think in college, I used to view success as monetary, and now I just don't care about that. I care about the people in my life and that I love what I do, and that's where I'm at. And so I feel good about that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That makes me happy.
Thanks, pal. Okay. Question number 2. Since you have been with UWS, what is one thing you hope to continually reflect on during your time there? Example, a memory with a coworker, something you learned, or something along the lines.
I feel like this is probably not specific. I can go into specifics, but my department has a lot of fun together. We're a really tight-knit group. There's 7 or 8 of us. I think 7.
Okay.
7 or 8. We'll go with that. I'm not going to get into specifics, but we're pretty close. Like, we're always in our team's chat, sending funny gifs and whatever, just being goofballs, but also being serious because we have some shit to do,
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's why I enjoy working there. Not many people get to say, oh my God, I genuinely love my coworkers. Like, I've told my coworkers I love them. I've been told by not just one of the coworkers in my department, but multiple of them, that this is probably one of the best groups that they've had with them, like, all working there. There's 3 or 4 that have been there for quite some time, and then a couple of us newbies. So just being able to hear that I'm part and like a vital part of this really great group of people makes me really happy. And I think that's probably what I will look away or continually reflect on the most, just being a part of this really special group that not only gets along well, but actually works together really well.
Yeah.
And if one person needs help with something, we're all jumping on it to help, or like see what we can do to aid them. Or like if I'm sick one day, there's a team that can step behind me and kind of figure out what needs to be done, not necessarily design wise, but project management wise and things like that. I love my team. They make me so happy. But fun things that we've done. Oh, we just went to Skyline last week. I don't remember if I talked about this in one of our episodes.
Think so. Last week was pretty busy for us. So
yeah, very true. We did like a strategic marketing retreat. So we left UWS for a day. We went up to Skyline Bowling, whatever the long title is, up in Duluth. And we did like a kind of conference day. So for most of the day, we were in one of their back rooms, like,
it is so nice in there.
it was fun.
We talked to them about a potential project, and I didn't realize how much goes on beyond, like, they have axe throwing, and then, like you said, they almost have kind of like a conference room in the back with a separate bar. It's crazy.
You can use it as like a convention center. They have so much stuff. It's awesome.
So much stuff. But continue.
Yeah, no, you're good. We were going over our marketing plans for next year. So we went over a big list of everything that we accomplished this year, maybe a couple minor things that we didn't finish on that list, but then we started building our big list of everything we need to make for fiscal year 25-26, so this coming year. And wait, maybe it's just 25, whatever, I don't know. That's not important. Jen doesn't do numbers. But long story short,
that's not your job.
Exactly. Yeah. I make things look pretty. And we were going over all of our marketing plans for next year. Specifics that I cannot talk about quite yet, but a lot of exciting things we were talking about. And then for the rest of the day, we got lunch, did a little break, and then we did duck pin bowling, which was so much fun. We had 2 lanes next to each other, and I was in charge of drawing the random names off a piece of paper, and somehow it was like the 4 youngest versus the 3 oldest people.
Wow.
And it was really fun. We were getting competitive. They kicked our asses.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, wisdom.
Yeah.
They've seen a lane or 2 before in their days.
Kidding.
Yeah.
But it was just fun to be able to do all of our important marketing stuff together and have that go really well. But then B, follow it up with seeing all of these people in an environment that's totally unexpected, and we would never run into each other at the bowling alley or something like that,
No, and it's something
so
new to experience together. And I just think that speaks to, from an outsider's perspective, it seems that whoever's in management or just your team in general, you guys have the same values and the same things at the forefront, which is half the balance of, getting shit done and working well together as a cohesive team, but then also having fun together. It's like you spend so much time with your coworkers, more than you usually do with your family, at least throughout your whole lifetime, unless you get an early retirement, which is great for
Lucky.
you. Not here. So I think that just shows like incredible balance and that you guys just all have the same values when looking at work.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so much fun. Like, I think I've said this probably 4 times just today, but I truly love my team. And there's really not anything that I would look back on and be like, man, that made me upset.
Yeah.
I can't think of one thing that they've done to make me upset. So I think that, long story short, this is long-winded, but I think I would look back on pretty much all of it really fondly. And I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys too.
Yeah.
It just seems like you'll just keep the momentum going, which is going to be great.
I think so, Dad.
Yeah.
So looking back on kind of the college, but also maybe slightly post-college part of your life, and maybe even to now, you're still pretty fresh out of school, I would say.
Thank you for saying that.
What are you, like 35, 40? I'm kidding.
Oh my God. I was like,
I'm
no.
kidding.
No, I know.
Okay, so looking back on college, maybe late college, early post-college years, do you have any standout or pivotal moments that kind of helped shape your path to where you are today? Or any like favorite memories that kind of helped you get to where you are? And if you want a little help, I thought it could be maybe related to a job, your personal life, maybe a mentor. I'm curious to hear kind of what helped you get to where you are.
So I can break it down at least into a few different areas. So the first one, I had Tanya Bernsdorf. She was the marketing professor at Minot State. And that's actually how I met a really good friend of mine, Alex Demko. She lives in the cities now, which is just so crazy. It's like I moved to Duluth. She moved to the cities. So it's like I love it when clans kind of like follow each other, but we were put on a project together. And I think between her marketing brain, Alex's, and then my graphic design brain, we still understood marketing and then her graphic design. With this professor, she was the first person to kind of go out of their way to really say like, I see you guys go above and beyond for this project. And she gave us the first perfect score she's ever given. And she was a tenured professor.
Whoa.
That was really cool. And it was just kind of like a good aha moment where I was like, some people are in your corner and some people do just want to see you succeed. It didn't even matter if she felt like it was the best project she's ever seen, you know, or it's just like, it was almost just like a perfect score on potential. Like, I see this in you. And she had even told me with the logo and the designs that we ended up doing, and now speaking more personally to me, she wanted me to create the logo for another group project that we had in a future marketing class, which was for a spelling bee event that they wanted to do, which was like an adult spelling bee that was going on. And I did create the logo. Nothing ended up happening. But then she ended up hiring me for my first official logo, which I sold for $150. Her and her partner at the time, they were opening a restaurant in downtown Minot called High Third. Both of them were just like, are you sure you only want to charge $150? Because at this time, my mind was like, yeah, I can't believe you guys are even like hiring me.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I think that people need to look into the psychology of graphic designers when they first start out and just kind of nip it in the bud. Anyways, nip it in the bud. Because I just feel like, I don't know, it's just such bad negative self-talk. But they were the ones who told me to start my first LLC, which was Nomad Design House. And I basically wanted it to be like, I grew up moving around so much. I would consider myself a nomad. And I was like, I had learned something really nice from a fellow graphic designer that they were like, well, if you start a business and you don't want it to be your name, sometimes it's better to hide behind what seems to be bigger than you. And it kind of makes you rise to the occasion. So that's why I went with Design House. But probably that. I was in a long-term relationship and I was living with the person and I thought, you know, like that was it. I had my really good friend Akira. We were sitting in my living room on a Tuesday night on a school night. We're just drinking probably two bottles of red wine. Sometimes we get into a little bit of trouble together like that. But that was also back in the day too, when my body could handle it. I had a talk with her and I remember both of us were looking at each other and just kind of like reflecting on our relationships. That conversation for her ended up solidifying that she wanted to marry the guy she was with, and I was in their wedding last year. So that was really cool. But in the same breath, it solidified for me that I was not in the place that I needed to be. So a lot of self-growth obviously came from that decision. And with the job that I was in at that time, and I won't go into this because I've already spoken on it, but just the amount of stress and not being in the type of work that I wanted to be in, I ended up moving to Duluth. And that's probably, post graduating, the best decision I could have made. And I think every day I do take this place for granted. It's so beautiful. It has everything that I could ever want. And so I try and reflect more on that when I catch myself.
Yeah.
So anyways, long-winded story, but you're asking very good questions.
Good.
So I kind of like Gail said last week, they're a yapper. I'm also a fellow yapper. Sorry, guilty.
Who wants to go to the Four Seasons?
Me.
Anywho. Love it.
Okay, number 3 for you, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So I believe when speaking on reflection, it's typically regarding the past. However, I would like to know, and this, I don't want it to come off negative. I'm
Sure.
just curious, what worries you about the future?
Ooh.
And this can be as personal or just broad in general, whatever you want.
See, I'm a chronic worrier. A better question is probably what doesn't worry me. I worry about a lot of things, and a lot of things that I definitely don't need to be worried about. A big one that I worry about now is like a job. Even though I have a very secure job right now, I don't know that I'm going to be working for UWS for my entire life. I would like to think that I'm going to work for them for quite some time, but you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the thought of, and this doesn't go like specifically for my current job, but any job that I could think of having, like leaving it or losing it and something happens and then having to go find something else really terrifies me.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's the fact of, oh, why would they want me? Or like, it's not necessarily self-deprecation, but I do think, I don't know, it's something about that just really scares me. I like being in control of things. That's a big thing. That's why I don't
Maybe
like
like
flying.
the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, the unknown is definitely scary to me. I could not tell you why. I think there's a lot of positive about the unknown too, but
Yeah.
sometimes it just is overbearingly scary. And I don't like thinking about things.
Yeah.
But
I think that's why I wanted to ask you the question too, is because you always take such a positive spin on everything when it comes to the podcast. So I kind of wanted to challenge you a little bit and see like what your answer would be.
That is a tough question. Like, seriously, though, a lot of things kind of worry me. And I don't know why. I think maybe sometimes it's easier to look at things and kind of worry about it.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. I feel like in most cases, I'm generally really positive or try to be positive about things. But I think the unknown scares me quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though is like that was kind of like a different form of question that you would usually receive or something to talk about, and you still handled it as you typically do with like such a smile on your face and happy and go lucky, so it's nothing can bring Jen down. If that question answered anything, it is that. I will give you a follow-up question. What excites you the most about the future?
Oh, so much also excites me at the same time. I'm so excited to eventually move and try somewhere new. I've talked about this plenty of times on the podcast before. I currently live in Superior, Wisconsin. It is not my favorite place to be. I'm really looking forward to getting out of it someday, whether that's in the near future, whether that's in a year or two. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like to think so. Who said that?
Hello? We have a ghost in the studio. I repeat, we have a ghost.
What else excites me? If we want to get like really specific on things, my sister's getting married next year.
Yay.
I'm so excited for that. I'm the maid of honor.
Yeah, you are. Nothing matronly about you though.
No.
Just besides the title.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pumped. That's going to be obviously like a core memory in not only my brain and myself, but my whole family as well.
Yeah.
I'm excited I'm always excited for this podcast. This is like one of the highlights of every week or whenever we do it. I love that. I'm excited for quite literally everything about my future, but at the same time, it's also kind of scary because you never know what's going to happen.
Do you think it's because you are so happy where you're at right now that the future is, because it's unknown, you don't know if the things that you'll have right now will be there in the future? Or
maybe, but I don't know. I feel pretty secure with everything I have right now. Like I'm in the best relationship I've ever been in. I have some of the best friends I've ever had in my entire life. You, Becca, all my other friends as well. I don't have people in my life right now. This might sound weird. So, disclaimer, I don't have people in my life right now that I don't want around me. Like everyone is handpicked, hand selected by me.
Gosh.
You know, like things happen. You fall apart from some people. Maybe it's intentionally, maybe it's not. I would say it's unintentionally in my case most times, but I just feel like really secure with everyone and everything that's around me at the moment.
Yeah.
So maybe it is like the fact that could like pick apart someday, but I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe not fall apart or change,
right.
But just, maybe just change and you're not sure what that change may entail.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing.
That was a deep question.
I know.
Pal.
Okay, honestly, the next one's going to be deeper, so I'm glad that you'll get some time. I was looking for inspiration and I saw something similar to this online, and then it prompted me to like write this one because I'm just curious.
Okay.
You know?
I'm
but
excited.
Anyways, go ahead.
Opening sentence. This is not just directed at you. This is directed at everyone. No matter what field you are in or any of our listeners or me are in, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
No matter what field people are in, I'm sure many of us would go back and change things about our first real field experience if we could. For me, graphic design, and for Al, maybe graphic design or other fields as well. She's got a lot of tools in her tool belt.
A lot of tools.
I want you, Alex, speaking to Alex directly, I want Alexandra Harem to think back on her first big design project. It doesn't have to be like your first ever, because you kind of talked about that logo a little while ago. But it could be at Poppin' Dot. It could be right out of college, whatever you can think of right now. I want to know where you think your skills have grown the most.
Oh, two very good questions. Okay. Well, let me start off by saying that my first big project, I would say, okay. I don't want to consider the small businesses that have trusted me with rebranding them or giving them a new visual identity, or even their first one is not big. I do think that that's big. But while I would say within the first 2 years of Poppin' Dot, I had done a small business logo, which then actually went into another small business logo because they were friends. And then that one friend actually ended up giving me 3 more projects. And 2 of them were conferences through the state of Minnesota, which in my opinion, I just feel like UWS, any type of large entity, especially state educational, those are really hard to break into. Because typically they're going to go to large marketing firms, or at least marketing firms, because they're trying to do everything in one spot. So the fact that I was given these opportunities to create a visual identity for the 2 conferences, and then the third one was a church visual identity, so new logo for them, it never ceases to amaze me the different types of people and businesses and like organizations, I guess, that I get to work with. But I think working with the state of Minnesota with their it's the MHSATS. Basically, it's like, think about all of your mental health specialists within the state that work for the state. This is kind of like the group that supports them. Yeah. So they'll have a conference once a year. This one was just for mental health specialists, the first one, and they basically kind of like, here's tools that we're going to give you to take back to your team, and that's what it was for. The second one was for nursing, which was really cool. So even with them both being from the same entity, they were both very different, but I just felt like okay, we're scheduling video calls, like we're on a schedule. I'm walking through the process like I've always wanted to. I'm showing my discovery deck, and it just felt, they were challenging because I felt like I needed to rise to the occasion. So I would say that those are my biggest ones. Does that mean that they're my favorite designed? No, but I do think that that's kind of when I started to realize like, oh shit, like I'm doing something right because these projects have come my way.
Yeah.
And that's from nothing other than doing everything prior to that. What was the second half of your question?
Where do you think your skills have grown the most?
I think being firm in my creative direction. I've been thinking about this a lot lately too, because Poppin' Dot has seen a lot of shifting in the last few months. And I think that my skills and talents are no longer lie with just being a graphic designer. I would say it's like a creative director.
Yeah.
Even with the podcast, like when we were first starting to kind of like play around with the sound bites, like I am not a sound technician, but I was able to figure it out.
Right.
It's like there are things that I'm kind of starting to figure out that it's like I have all these ideas in my head that are outside of graphic design. Now it's video, now it's sound, it's how I want a complete business to look, because now I'm just starting to kind of create branding that is very firm in what it is for Poppin' Dot. I'm also not afraid to kind of tell my dad and now our new team member, which is Brandon. They will have different opinions than me, and I will always respect them. Brandon brings a lot of marketing experience, and my dad he's worked 30 years in corporate. Like he fucking gets it, But at the same time, I'm in my position for a reason. I have a lot of experience too, and I kind of am in charge of the overall aesthetic. So if their ideas can't be kind of combined into what we already have, it's been tough putting my foot down because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But at the end of the day, it is my job to do that.
Absolutely.
So I think being a little bit more firm and confident in what I'm doing, but just like owning my creative direction. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's such a good answer. I don't know. I didn't have like a image of what I was expecting you to say in that, but that was a good answer, pal.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's tough because it's like, yes, I'm a graphic designer, but I would like to be so much more.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Question number 4. This is a big one.
I'm nervous.
So I want you to take your time. Who has had the greatest impact on your life?
Oh, there's so many people.
And you can have multiple people for different things, but hit like the top ones. And if you could explain why.
Yeah. I would say one of the biggest, and it's in no order by any means, but I feel like one of the biggest and maybe one of the people that I'm most similar to because of it is my grandpa on my mom's side. And I know that my sister and my cousin Savannah, which is also on my mom's side, would definitely say the same thing. Our Gramps. Yeah, he definitely shaped a lot of things in my life, I would say. This is just a random story about it, but he would pick my sister and I and my little cousin up to at a different school, but he would pick Jordan and I up from school, and he would always have like a little snack bag waiting for us in the back. So that's just like core memory with him, but definitely like a family man. I feel like he would do, well, he's passed now, but he would have done absolutely anything for my grandma. They loved each other so much, and she was eventually his like longtime caretaker over time as well. But I feel like that's definitely where I learned a lot of my core values about family and the things I care about. But also, random side note, my love of baseball. He definitely shared that with me too.
I always forget about that. We need to go to a game.
We should go to a game.
Okay.
I love that. Like, so much so that I have his Milwaukee Brewers bucket hat tattooed on my arm because he would wear that like every single day. And when he passed, I felt like a part of me passed too, like a part of our whole family. So had to have that to have him close. But he was definitely one of my top role models. My parents as well. I feel like, what up, Andy and Michelle? I know you're listening to this. I'm not going to direct my speech at them, but I feel like my parents have definitely had a huge impact on my life. And I feel like anyone can say that, whether it's positive or negative, but my parents definitely have a huge positive impact on my life. Anything, well, I'm not going to say I got whatever I wanted when I was a kid, but you know what I mean? Like, they would have done absolutely anything that my sister and I would have needed, or anything to just help us get to where we are. That's a huge reason as to why I am where I am today. They helped me with college. They helped me literally get to where I am today. They helped my education, and without that, I wouldn't be at this podcast. I wouldn't be working at UWS. I never would have met you, let alone worked for you.
Yeah.
So I think of the butterfly effect a lot, or especially Taylor Swift, Invisible String, things just connecting over time. And for my parents to decide one time when I was a kid, or whenever they decided that, hey, we're going to help these girls with college, and then me get this awesome education, and let alone in a place that I loved, and they let me decide where I want to go. Then I get my education, and I meet you and work for you. We become great friends, and everything just connects like that, which I think is huge.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Things just, from just a decision to either save up or start a fund, or just decide at that time when our kids want to go to college, just that decision that basically changed the whole direction of your life, even if the time in between had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It was just it predetermined at least your starting point, which is crazy to think about.
Right? I think about that stuff all the time, all of the little teeny tiny decisions we make and how they eventually pile up on each other and lead us to where you are.
It's so bizarre, but it's cool.
I'm trying to think if I can think of one that's not family.
I was going to say if you wanted to answer this one too, but if you think of someone that's outside of whatever this question is, who in the design world has been your greatest impact?
Ooh, somebody that I have not met, but definitely have looked up to in the design world for such a long time is Kel Lauren. They have been my favorite graphic designers, or one of my favorite graphic designers, at the top of my list since I can remember. I got into graphic design, or kind of figured out that's the path I wanted to go on when I was 14 or 15, somewhere around there, and found their YouTube channel right away. They posted a bunch of videos of not only the work that they were doing in the real world, but they would post walkthrough tutorials of designs they did a Girl Scout cookie rebrand once, and they rebranded Tampax, not legit, but just on their YouTube channel. And shit like that is so fun. That showed me, hey, you don't have to be designing things just to make money. You can do things just because you want to. Just give it a try.
But it doesn't have to be so serious all the time.
Yeah, I agree. They are and have been one of my favorite designers for quite some time. David Carson, we talk about him all the time.
I love Davey.
Yeah. Another man that I've had multiple interactions with. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on here. David Carson, we love him. He is one of the top graphic designers ever within the last 100 years, And he's just this old, he's not old. David Carson, if you're listening, you're not old.
He's in his 60s.
He's an older gentleman who is a graphic designer. He's worked for crazy huge companies, but also he's a surfer.
Yeah,
I love that.
He's very skateboarder surfer vibes, but also kind of the typical artsy older gentleman that he's oh, I don't care, it's just kind of quirky, and he just has his own way about stuff.
I love that. This is kind of embarrassing to admit, but he has an Instagram. We love that. He is exactly what you said. He just posts whatever the hell he wants all the time. And one time he posted one of his old projects, and I was like, that's sick. I love that. I have to tell him. So I DM'd him. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was like, David, I love your work. I always have. This is super cool, and you make me want to create shit like this. And he replied. He was like, thanks. That means the world.
He's just one of us. He is just
he's one of the girls.
He's one of the girls. Yeah.
I love it.
I love that so much. Do you think that I'm trying to think because I would also say that he's impacted the way that I look at graphic design. So for him, do you think that you're more impacted by his like his physical work and the work that he outputs, or do you think it's like the way he goes about his work? Like, what do you find more?
I think for me, it's the way he goes about his work. I think his work is super sick, obviously, for a man to be like making collages for these multi-billion-dollar companies. I think that's sick.
Yeah, it's almost like sticking it to the man.
Love it.
Yeah.
One of the girls.
One of the girls, yeah.
But also his mindset. He's just so, I feel like he's intentionally carefree, you know? Like, he's carefree to an extent. Obviously, he cares about, like, what he's putting into the world. But at the same time, he's like, no, I'm going to make it however the hell I want. If they don't like it, they don't need my work then.
Yeah, almost kind of trying to be like a gentle disruptor,
Yeah.
you know, and because I always tell people that my approach can be kind of unconventional in comparison to other people in modern day graphic design, especially for you, like you kind of have to follow a traditional route because you have a traditional application of it for
Right.
university. But I love the juxtaposition of him doing something so incredibly different in the same field that we do that almost brings back like the artistic nature to it.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the many reasons why I love him. He's
Very
awesome.
cool. Oh, that was really good. Sorry for it getting so dang deep there. I just like needed to shake it up a little bit, you know?
I like it.
Okay.
Mine is maybe going to get a little deep too, but maybe
Oh.
not like that deep.
Like medium. We're about to get medium deep.
Part of what makes you you, and definitely like in my head, one of the things that makes Alex, is you owning or co-owning a business with your dad, Greg. I want to know what has been one of your favorite parts about working with your dad at Poppin' Dot, and then also owning a business in general.
You know, it's really tough to answer because especially right now, there's a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't talk about because it's in the works, and it's interesting because a big thing that I haven't talked about before is this is his dream. He gave up so much for my mom and I and always traveled and put in 30 very long, hard, demanding years at a corporate company. And you know, everybody looks at when you climb up the ladder, they just see the things that you get and not as much as the things that it took to get there, because there are people that aren't in, you know, business and, you know, finance and things. And I feel like, yes, that's still difficult to a level, but he was doing a lot of groundwork. So I'm very thankful for his work ethic and kind of being able to experience that. But it wasn't his dream to work for a crude oil company.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what we're working on right now. He always says that he wanted me to join this business for me in the future. He wants it to be mine eventually. Right now it is ours, and I would say that it's also equally Brandon's too. Whenever somebody joins our team, I didn't think it would be so soon. I'm so happy it is, but we're all at the same level, right? So eventually he would always say, like, I want this to be your business. Like, this is for you. But right now, because knowing that's in the future, this is his moment. He came up and engineered something that is his dream. And I catch myself sometimes getting frustrated or wanting to control it. And I just talked about the creative design, and it's like right now, it's almost like an internal client. Like, I need to take a seat next to him or a back seat and kind of let him do his thing.
Sure.
I've seen the stress and the toll that it takes on him and the self-doubt. And it's just like, it kind of makes me reflect on when you are part of a corporate or other business and you're always working for somebody else and you're not going after the things that you've always dreamt of doing or just at least having a passion project. I feel like you don't experience self-doubt and skepticism and wondering if you're making the right decision that's equally good and bad. Like, I don't feel like you experience it in such a genuine way as if you have your own business and you have no option because it's your money. It's not somebody else's money.
Right.
Like, that's you investing your time into something you don't know if somebody's going to want it. So it's been really incredible to watch him do that. And I think that's been my favorite part working with him. And that answer has honestly changed since the last time I was asked that, probably a year or two ago. And I think it's kind of seeing, like, I've always put him on this really high pedestal and I'll always keep him there. But it's been really gratifying to see him just as like a normal person.
Yeah.
And to see him doubt things and to be stressed and to not see him always be that figure that's kind of taking care of everything. It's kind of like, okay, well, now let's share the stress together and work towards the same thing.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful.
yeah. So I think for sure that as far as my dad goes, the business, I was actually anticipating if you would ask me a question like this. And I think what I've learned is more things about myself. This business, I mean, every position I've had up until this point, even with my first graphic design business, I have been burnt out from. And I always wondered why. Like, I can do anything I set my mind to. It's just a matter of learning the skill set, right? It's just like, okay, what will it take? Like, I have done these things at least for a year, if not more, in different avenues. And I'm just like, what will it take? And I think what it is even since I've started Pop and Dot, it's like we've done the podcast. I started makeup up again. You know, it's like, I feel like I'm always constantly searching for something because I'm used to not feeling fulfilled. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned with owning a business is, as stressful and unknowing as it is, it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. It's led to so many incredible things. I mean, it's made me closer to my parents. It brought me to Duluth. It's how I met my boyfriend. It's how I met you. I mean, it's like the negatives couldn't possibly outweigh the positives. So, yeah.
Aww.
That was a really good question, Jen.
I wanted some good heartwarming feelies in there, and that was perfect, Al.
Did you get them?
I got them.
Okay, good.
Did you not see me cheesing over here?
I know. I was trying not to look at you because I was also like, I always used to be a very emotional person. Like, I was not a good speech giver. I mean, I am good at public speaking, but when it talks about my feelings, like, I'm always worried for my wedding day, or just like if I were to have to talk about my business, because it's not just like any business. Like,
right.
It is so close to me because it is my dad, and like we're so close. It's just, I'm trying to keep it as intimate, but like to myself as possible, because I'm not trying to cry, y'all. Like, no. And I swear every time I think about it, like, I could, if I really wanted to make myself, I could. Just all the benefits. But anyways, switching directions. Number 5, the last question for Jen. What is your favorite memory from the first season of Call It Podcast?
Ooh. Well, I feel like I have a lot of favorite memories.
You can share. You can share your top 3 if you want.
I feel like us just coming in here for the first time, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but do you remember we weren't recording the first time that we started? We like sat down and chatted for a bit and it didn't record or something. It was like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It wasn't long,
okay. Yeah.
But, and then we were able to be like, oh, LOL, we'll move on. And then even with that little tiny minor setback, like literally our first time in the studio, we jumped right back in.
Yeah.
And it just felt so good. I feel like that is my favorite memory. Us just like sitting here the first time, doing our thing. And then when we both took our headphones off at the end, we were like, yeah.
It felt
that
right.
Felt really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably top tier moment. This is a really funny moment. But I don't even remember the context. You must have not eaten or something during the day. You had a busy day and you forgot lunch. And then I got here. We normally go to Whole Foods. I was like, hey, you want to go to Whole Foods or something? She's like, I need a McChicken. So we went to McDonald's and got a McChicken. Or no, we were ordering. I don't remember if I was driving or if you were driving.
I was driving.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you ordered 2. And then you looked at me. I was like, oh, that's perfect. She's like, the 2 are for me.
I was feeling some type of way.
You were hangry. You were angry, but you were like hungry.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. That was just funny being like, they're for me.
Do you remember the rest of that story?
I'm trying to remember. I know something else happened.
So this is what I thought, because I was driving And because I'm a people pleaser,
Yeah.
Jen was sitting next to me and she has the bag, which is what you do when you get the drive-through bag. You
Yes.
send it to the passenger. And I was trying to drive us back and I said, Jen, I hate to do this to you right now, but can you hand me a McChicken?
That's what it was. And that was the funniest thing I think that you have ever said to me. Jen, I hate to do this to you right now. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? Because it was still pretty early, like in our time podcasting. I'm like, does she hate this? Are we doing bad? Can you hand me that McChicken?
It's almost like I was hypothetically smoking the cigarette. You know, when people are just like so strung out, they're like, oh my God, can you just McChicken me, please?
Yes.
Like, I'm so sorry to ask this. Like, really putting you out of your way.
That was so funny.
That's the one comment. I kind of forgot about the one where you were like, yeah, that's perfect.
I was like,
and
yeah,
I said,
that's good.
nope, those are for me. What would you like to order?
That was so funny.
Whoopsies.
I just thought you were ordering for me, like a man.
Well, now I know what your order is. It was a learning
It
experience.
was a learning
right?
experience. It was so funny. That whole situation. I
Yeah,
loved
that
it.
was good.
What are my other favorite memories? Well, a recent one was our podcast with Gail last week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna toot my own horn for a second, guys. Personally, I thought I nailed that one. Gail, I know you're listening. I know you nailed that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a fun full circle moment for me as well. I talked about that last week, but never did I ever think I would have my own podcast, let alone interview somebody that I hold in such a high regard, not only in the design world, but in my heart as
Yeah.
well. I love Gil so much. I'm just really proud of that. And like, honestly, big picture here. I am proud of every single thing that we have said, every single thing that we have put out on here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just happy that we always joke that like 7 people listen to this. I'm just happy that there's a small community of people here who have at least found a space that whether you're listening to us every once in a while or
Mhm.
every week, like a dedicated fan, you just vibe with
The
us.
dedication, it speaks volumes.
I agree.
From not last week, the week before,
Uh-huh.
to our roll call, all 2 of you, thank you.
Oh my god.
Woo!
Yeah, yeah.
You guys want to let us know who you were and we'll take you out for dinner.
One of them was definitely Henry.
Yeah.
I'll take him out.
And then the other one was probably like your parent. Probably
my
Andy.
dad.
Yeah.
yeah.
Andy and Henry, you want to go out to dinner?
We
We'll
can
take
We
you.
can talk about this later, but Andy and Henry are meeting for the first time this weekend.
We will
Yeah.
definitely
I
be
know.
talking about
I'll
that.
give updates eventually.
Please do.
Anyways.
We'll hold you to it. Okay. Is that it? Or is it? I just didn't want to cut you off there.
No, I feel like I don't even remember most of what I just said in that little.
That's okay. You kind of summed it up to all of it being really good. So
Perfect. Well, yeah, I'd like genuinely feel that. There's not one thing that I would go back and change so far on this podcast. Like,
Mm-mm.
we've covered a lot of really heavy topics, but at the same time, like 2 or 3 episodes ago, I was talking about how little Chipotle scoops in their bowls.
Yeah.
Like, we just talk about fun shit, but also current stuff. And I love that. I love that we have a platform where we can talk about what we want and
Mhm.
people are either here with it or I kick them to the curb.
Yeah. Curb it.
I curb them.
Hit the road. Hit the curb.
What did you
We
say?
call that an oopsie.
I love that.
What were you going to ask me?
I don't remember.
Cool.
My last question for you is kind of weird, but I think it's a fun one to end on,
Ooh.
especially on my end.
Weird is good. Weird is good. Weird is good.
I find inspiration for art or really anything everywhere in the world around us. I find a lot of things inspiring, but also especially creatively. There are so many things around us that make me think, ooh, I want to use that. Or,
Mhm.
ooh, I want to do something similar. Whether it's in your personal life, in your art life, in your business life, I want to know, what is the weirdest or most unexpected source of inspiration you've ever had for a project?
Ooh, that's good. That's really good. Honestly, a lot of like my weird inspiration like comes from my head. Those are usually my best ideas, and I've actually kind of been coming to the epiphany like my work has never been better, and that's because I'm seeking for less visual inspiration from designs that already exist.
Love
you know?
that. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like I think that it takes a little bit of time for every designer to get there, but I know that they're weird or hard to explain because those are the ones when somebody asks me like, "Oh, what are you thinking?" and I try and explain it, the blank stare on their face of just being like not really following but trying to follow because they don't want to be rude, right? But I would say my brain is probably the weirdest spot to get them. But okay, let me think about this. I mean, weird. Okay. I mean, I'm sure there was something like a logo on the back of a plate or like a tag I saw somewhere. Yeah. Or I would just say sometimes it's the shape of things, like the shape of this pole outside. I can envision, like, just looking at something like that, I can envision it has like almost like a polygonal outside, and then it comes to a point, so it reminds me, and it also kind of looks like a banana because it's like rusty and like a bruised banana. So my idea now looking at this would be like, okay, we'll remake the sign but as a rusty banana, you know what I'm saying? Like, just that's an example of, I would say that those are more of my passion projects that I haven't been able to do, or the few projects with Pop and Dot that I haven't yet like brought to fruition. Typically, when I have a client project, I'm not getting inspiration from crazy places unless I find it in my research. I think that's maybe why I like research so much, is because I know my brain works different than anybody else. So yes, maybe some I do obviously point out connections to things, but I always love it when something is kind of far-fetched, but you somehow can like almost like, you can't bullshit a bullshitter, right? Like, I'm really good at making a story and making it work. So it's like, if a client came to me and they were like, I somehow want to tie this in with this, and they're completely opposite ideas, I will somehow find a connection between the two. And I think that is so much fun. But yeah, probably my brain. My brain's a scary place. It can get a little weird and hairy in there.
Those
and don't you know it?
Things. Weird and I'm not saying that. That's
Wait, what'd you say?
Did you say weird and hairy?
You know, when it's like the situation's getting a little hairy. Yeah.
I didn't want to come on here saying my two favorite things are those.
Weird and hairy?
Because that could sound weird, you know? But I love getting weird, especially in art. Like, I would agree. I feel like you can always look at a tag and be like, ooh, the shape of that could be like a cool badge for a logo or whatnot. But I feel like, again, I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit, but when we worked together, I feel like both of our minds were our best tools. Yeah. And we could always just like see things in there and make it happen. Yeah. And I think that's really fucking cool.
Yeah, I agree. There's here's maybe something for couples to take away from this. So Brandon and I, when we first started dating, I always played the squiggle game with him, which is on, you know, usually napkin or a sheet of paper. And it's typically when we're at a restaurant or in the car, like trying to kill some time. But it's a kind of a cool creative game to get the mind rolling. But your other person will draw a little squiggle and it can look literally however you want. And you somehow have to make it into something.
Yeah.
And then you just like keep going back and forth. But then also a lot of the times if we're on the lake walk and we're kind of looking up at the clouds, he'd be like, what, that cloud kind of looks like this. You know, I'm sure so many people do that, but it's like even in shapes, negative space, silhouettes of just everyday mundane things, like it's just it's a good brain teaser to just be like, make something out of it.
Yeah. That's how you stay sharp. But also like, especially in our field, that's how you come up with some cool shit sometimes.
Some original shit. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so that kind of wraps up this episode. And it's in the title, but this is our final episode for season 1.
Woo!
Which is pretty great. Jen's Jen and I's goal at the beginning of this was to do a full year of 1 episode a week, which is actually pretty crazy for people who just start out podcasting. I didn't realize that until we were like 3 weeks in. I'm like, oh, people do bi-weekly, or if anything, like once a month.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of us. I think it's a huge accomplishment. I can't wait to see what we do second season. But Jen and I just kind of got to this point where we're like, we just need a little time, a little breaky.
Yeah.
Because like we are just saying, the ideas are only going to stay fresh if we go out and experience life without having to come here every week. So not really sure when we'll come back for season 2, but that's the goal.
But we'll be back.
For sure.
Yeah. We've got a lot going on. It's still the end of summer. August and September are like always busy months for everyone. So we're busy too.
We're busy.
Just taking a little break and we'll be back soon, Pookie.
Yeah. Don't fret.
Yeah.
But
don't worry.
The coolest thing is like we've created a catalog of 28 episodes for you guys to listen to. Most of those are 45, if not over an hour long. So y'all have basically 28 hours of Jen and Alex goodness, of call it what you want.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to end it on that. We don't know what the future holds, but we know that it's back here eventually. Yeah.
Of course.
Final thoughts.
My final thoughts are what I said earlier. I'm really proud of everything we put out. We have a lot of content out there. We've talked about a lot of cool topics, a lot of fun things. Talked a lot about our lives.
Yeah.
And go listen to it.
Yeah. And when you're having a bad day, listen to us. When you're having a good day, listen to us. And I would say, unbiasedly, that there are a lot of episodes that are worth listening to a second time around.
Oh, I would agree. Completely.
Yeah.
Jen,
should we shake on the final episode of season 1? There we go.
We're shaking on it right now.
Basically, we can only like get fingertips out there.
Ooh.
All right, everybody. We love you. Until next time. These are your Call It Gals. I'm Alex.
I'm Jen.
Love you. Bye.
Smell ya.